Life in the Philippines often feels like a constant motion: the daily commute, the rhythm of work, and the weight of household responsibilities. Amidst this grind, we are often expected to project a sense of total conviction. But for many, there is a quiet, underlying hesitation when it comes to faith. When we are faced with heavy responsibilities or a call to lead that we didn't ask for, it is common to feel stuck. The expectations feel too large, and our own capabilities feel too small. We often treat this hesitation as a spiritual failure. But if you look at the very beginning of the Christian story, you find that this exact tension was present from the start. Doubt isn't a signal to stop. It is the actual environment where a divine mission begins. In the Gospel of Matthew, the 11 remaining disciples gather on a mountain in Galilee. These were Jesus' closest companions, the ones who had stayed through 3 years of public ministry. The text records a startling detail about this encounter. When they saw the risen Christ, they worshipped him, but they also doubted. Even after witnessing miracles, they stood in his presence and felt unsure. It is to these specific, doubting men that Jesus gives the Great Commission. He commands them to go and make disciples of every nation on earth, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Then Jesus leaves. He ascends into the sky, leaving the disciples standing there alone. They are left with a global mandate and no physical leader to guide the next step. Relying on their own intellect, their personal motivation, or their social standing would have been useless. The mission was simply too large for human capability alone. Jesus didn't dismiss the disciples for their uncertainty. He gave them a promise that they would receive power when the Holy Spirit came upon them. The Ascension was a transition. Jesus departed physically, so that the spirit of wisdom and revelation could be distributed to all believers, regardless of where they were. This shifted the source of strength. Power was no longer tied to a physical person in Galilee. It became an internal reality residing within believers. This internal presence provides a spirit of wisdom. When human motivation fails, this deeper grace sustains the work. Participating in this mission requires a total transfer of trust, moving away from what we can do on our own and leaning into what the Spirit provides. But if this power is internal, how do we stay connected to it? How do we access that promised presence in our actual lives today? In Catholic tradition, this connection happens most tangibly at Mass. It is the place where the Holy Spirit descends, restoring the kingdom of heaven in our own neighborhoods. In the Eucharist, the internal work of the Spirit meets a physical reality. Jesus returns in both flesh and spirit, fulfilling his promise to be with us until the very end of the age. We also see this trust modeled in the Blessed Virgin Mary. Her life shows us what it looks like to live with a quiet, unwavering confidence in God's plan. Mary's example of waiting for the Spirit is the blueprint for the Church. She shows us how to move from a state of being frozen by doubt to a state of active, faithful preparation. Through the ritual of the Mass and the model of Mary, we are reminded that we are never alone. The power to overcome our hesitation is always within reach. This brings us back to our own context. Faith was never intended to be a passive search for personal comfort. It is a response to a command to go and teach. Spiritual maturity happens when we stop being merely recipients of grace and start becoming givers. We experience the fullness of God's love most clearly when we are sharing it with others. The power of the Holy Spirit is often dormant until it is put into practice. It is the act of stepping into the work of the commission that activates the grace we've been given. This work takes place in the quiet spaces of our lives. You are called to be a witness in your home, your workplace, and among your friends. Moving from self-reflection to active service is the way we move past the feeling of spiritual paralysis. Realistically, the feelings of doubt will return. They are a natural part of the journey, but they no longer have the final say in how you live your life. As you interact with those around you, remember that the goal isn't to be perfectly eloquent. It is to let the Spirit work through your existing relationships. The pressure to perform perfectly is removed when you realize that the Holy Spirit is the one providing the strength for every step you take. So keep walking and stay faithful. Despite our human flaws, the presence of Christ guarantees that the mission will continue until the end of time.